Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Shank 2. Let's continue. So, powering through the game, I suppose, as fast as we're trying to. Like, looking at the pistols here, the amount of damage it does compared to its speed isn't even as good as throwing knives. Throwing knives would have to be effectively at 0 in speed to compare to the maximum speed and 1/4 damage, 3/4 of damage. Stun may have a bit more of an effect on it. Also, one of the achievements for what I assume unlocking these skins is to beat the game on hard mode, which, yeah, I just don't see a way with such a short campaign that this game has that you would possibly really want to play it as often as they're suggesting. Alright. So we have some tight-skirted, tight-topped characters. Ladies. In a lot of ways, this comes off a lot like the Archer FX cartoon. But even in that, if you think about what is good about the Archer cartoon, it's not really the action so much as it is the writing. And there was just absolutely no writing in that. And then, yes, of course, I could go into an argument that if you're animating somebody skin-tight, in skin-tight clothing, you're effectively doing something in animation that you only can do in animation, which is effectively draw them nude while still having them technically in clothing. So I guess maybe there's a thought here that that these might be Amazonians and that they might have a different attack style to them. Interesting. You can pick up flaming sticks from any of these torches. Perhaps there is a aspect here of like maybe there's female enemies, because in so many of these beat 'em up games it is guys just beating up on guys, and I'm not 100% sure. It's kind of zoomed out so it's hard to tell, but there might be a bit of a nipple slip going on one of the 3D models of the female there, which is certainly something I was wondering about, was if we were going to hit a point where that became they go more into the sex since they've gone fully into the violence aspect. Although I don't know if we're really seeing real equality here when the breakdown seems to be 90% male in 2 previous levels, and then just a couple of females in this level. Let's see. Yeah, if anything, it does kind of come off as an interesting just gimmick. That's pretty much all we're seeing here. I don't even know where I am. And this is much more of an arena section than previous sections we've seen. And all of that was just around finding collectibles. There's definitely an inconsistency here that you can see in that we are now doing like these kind of Mayan Central American temples instead of staying longer on the docks or staying longer in the city part. I probably wasted all of those. Hit the wrong button. Wasted a grenade. This is definitely what you would want in a beat 'em up game, though, is to just have this ever-increasing collection of enemies to keep things interesting, because the level designs in most beat 'em up games are not going to be interesting. Same is pretty much true here. It's not amazingly interesting to walk around. It seems like we're freeing people when we just walk past them anyways.
To all our loyal members and their guests, please enjoy all we have to offer. It will surely be a night you will not forget. Intruder! Time for pain.
So they seem to be kind of working with the militia, but I don't know if that is they're exclusively working with the militia people or if they're their own setup. But that's the first time I feel like I've just been completely overwhelmed. It's a little too late in the game, though, to introduce these ideas, or like introduce a whole new faction. What does this do? Inherently, I don't think beat 'em up games succeed as well as they really should, or as much as you would have thought they would have succeeded back in the arcade days when they were the big thing. They just didn't evolve as a game style anywhere as much as, say, RPGs evolved, or just other kinds of games. Like first-person shooters, on their face of it, if you're thinking about something like Doom 3D, have made leaps and bounds progress and improvements. Where all you can really improve upon so much in a beat 'em up game is just the number of people and the level of graphics. And once you've hit that level, what is this other thing? I guess there's a Molotov cocktails. You see, now we're kind of introducing the idea of magic. She seems to be flying around. there's definitely danger in a fighting game of any sorts, fighting animals. That's the whole Tomb Raider problem, in that the entire Tomb Raider series had Lara Croft shooting animals, and now people like animals so much that they really would be offended on even shooting like wild dogs. Beware what lurks ahead. But if you're going to use a game like Shank as a good test bed, you're probably not in a terrible position to attack animals, since this is already pretty offensively gory. But all of that attack there, notably, did not lead towards a one-hit combo kill, or a first strike combo kill, I guess. So, yeah. We're interestingly jumping to the right, I mean towards the left, instead of the normal left to right. I could see a scenario here, though, that if they're going to introduce these Amazonians type characters, that we will very possibly see them make an effort to have us go back to levels we've already been at, and yeah, we may very well not have 2 new levels, which that would really suck if that was the case. One improvement you could definitely see for games like this is a actual indicator of how many people are about to attack, or how many people you have to defeat in an area. Like, if it just had a straight up counter and said there's 5, 10, 15 more people, maybe you want it to be a surprise as far as the amount of people, so maybe you just have a incoming danger bar. Wolves don't attack fairly fast, but they seem to do double attacks and be somewhat dangerous. The idea of freeing even 50 civilians at this rate is a little weird, because I just don't feel like I'm gonna, in the campaign mode, run into 50 civilians. At a certain level, more reaction sounds would be really necessary. Here we're fighting a boar that looks a little too much like a wolf, that I could see in the madness of all the characters on screen. That's another thing certainly that you'd want to see improved on these types of games, is just to have the background maybe be less detailed, or brightly colorful, foreground characters right now we kind of have brightly colorful foreground characters with a dark background, and it's still not really helping. This boar seems to be hitting each other. A lot of these prompts are not happening fast enough that I could actually act on them. This recording, I took a break, so I slept between the last recording and this recording, and I can definitely feel that there's just a lack of wind up here. Like, I don't feel as good at the game as I was previously, and I wasn't particularly good at the game even then. And this is a big group of people, so I'm just gonna have to get like really good at taking out this first wave. Probably shouldn't have drunk that beer or alcohol, tequila, whatever it is. Yeah. Unfortunately, this really is one of those cases where if you were really good at the game, you would go through this very easily and very quickly. And it would be amazing and really cool to look at. But if you're bad at the game, which is going to be the vast majority of people, of people playing the game for the first time, you're doomed to fail more than you are to succeed. Let's see. Rozelle's bio. And I imagine I'm working myself up to a boss fight.
You're no match for me.
Yeah, you would expect more of a like full action, like hour-long act around just fighting and setting up the fight for Rozelle. You can see her shadow move. That being said, it doesn't seem like there's much you can do. Just avoid getting hit by lightning and it doesn't seem like she stays around well enough. She has quite a bit of damage. And the whole air juggle thing, I think, screws you over in this scenario. There might be an argument now to, I mean, you can't really change too much here. You could try mines. Like just put one mine down. And like she dodges enough that yeah, it does seem like your best bet is probably to just do something like this. Stay away from being hit by the lightning bolts. You've got enough time to do this, and it really does just seem like it's a speed thing. The angles at which you can shoot are more than just like an 8-way shot, which you'd almost certainly expect it to be more of a 4-way or 8-way shot, probably 8-way in the using the analog left stick, but she does seem to kind of just fly anywhere on the screen instead of specific relative positions to where a 45-degree angle shot would be, or where a 90-degree angle shot would be. And it does seem like it might be somewhat locking into your the bullets do seem to kind of auto-target a little bit, but not really enough. And see, we've got so much health now. We're doing actually very well. Which you kind of would have expected that this might be the way that you're supposed to play this game, is that you're supposed to just have the right weapons at the right times. Although it does seem like it's still very possible that she would just wreck you. Like, I am losing a lot more health than she is. Yeah. So obviously that's the right attack, but we are getting into that danger zone where it literally is gonna... I'm gonna just have to get so much better about avoiding damage. And I'm not like using the dodge at all, because the dodge is on the right stick and it just does not work. Like the right stick doesn't work when you have to press the B button to shoot the whole time, which I think inherently points out a flaw with current like Xbox controllers and modern controllers in general, is that if you're not careful and you try to use all the buttons, you will create a scenario where somebody needs more fingers than a human has, or more hands than a human has. This cutscene is not particularly interesting for all that scantily clad outfit. you would think there might be a more revealing pose if you're going to go the full direction there. But inherently, this is the problem with any video game, is that the last time any major game was rated adults only is probably 20-30 years ago, and no publisher and no console really wants adult only games, so they're not going to show nipples, they're not going to show like extreme exposed buttocks, they're definitely not going hardcore and showing genitalia. So you can dance a line of lewdness and have a cult leader in a bikini, metal bikini with a cape, but that's about all you can do with it. If you go any further, somebody's going to have a complaint and somebody's going to have a problem. I might have found a nice position where I can, if I don't move, I can not be hit. So you have this emphasis of grabbing her with a cape and not knocking her in the head. See, I think the idea here is you've got to probably hit them fairly quickly. I think the trick here is you have to hit her fairly quickly when she's on the ground. And so you look at this, and almost certainly you would succeed at this point. There'd just be like no question whatsoever that my health is just so much higher. But then they start to change the patterns on you, and that changes everything on you. And if I powered through her through this section, I would almost certainly be able to defeat her now without fighting that. There you have kind of an interesting angle, but not that interesting. And then they go for a comedic way in which Shank doesn't actually kill a woman, which still there is a high level of sexism in that you can kill all the underling females just fine, horrifically burning them to death in some instances, but you can't kill the main woman because she might be a romantic interest or of at least romantic desire of the player. Meanwhile, he kills all the other main bosses, unless they're setting it up for her to come back in like 2 levels, which that would be weird too. Now, the only reason this run took 24 minutes is because I died so much, and I guess inherently that does mean the time has been counting up even amongst the times I've died. So, yeah, I was thinking it was resetting the time back to a checkpoint when you reset, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. That being said, time really has no connection to score, so it telling your time seems to have no real reason for that. It doesn't seem like there's a medal that I'm seeing as they toggle through them that would highlight beating a level in a certain amount of time. But yeah, you definitely could have introduced the secondary cult group in the middle, at the beginning of like a second act of a 3-act play, or in the middle of a 4-act play, if this game was really long enough to justify that. But it's really hard to say that there's even one act in this game. And so those characters being introduced and just like really not having a voice or any backstory or explanation doesn't make a lot of sense. Ideally, what you could have done without changing anything else is you would have had the rebel character be your driver, and as levels were loading, if levels were big enough to need loading, the rebel guy you freed at the very beginning of the game would give you backstory and tell you about the region, and then you would get more backstory through collecting collectibles, or you just get rid of the collectibles and put the story up front. I am definitely not of the opinion that you need to hide stories in any kind of short game. Like, sure, unnecessary backstory in something like Skyrim being hidden in books is the right way to go, but when you're talking a less than a 5-hour experience, every bit of writing, every bit of backstory that you've made, every description and explanation should really have just gone straight to the voice actors, so that there would be more to say there. And it would have given the voice actors a lot more work to do than just making a collection of generic grunts and screams of anguish and pain. Which, yeah, since these fights, these group fights in particular, are fairly long anyways, a boss fight probably should have the boss saying some lines of dialogue and as you're fighting and talking during the whole experience. That's something that you would see probably in most action movies, is that it isn't just people fighting, it's people fighting and screaming at each other and talking and monologuing. Very rarely do you have just a pure action sequence where no dialogue is spoken at all. Some of the more wire fu, kung fu movies of the past certainly did that, but a modern Western action movie, it's just always emotion, always dialogue, always talking while also fighting. So much so that a lot of movies, it's just like one or two punches are thrown, then a whole conversation is had with 4 or 5 sentences, and then 1 or 2 more punches are thrown. And yeah, that wouldn't be as high action of a video game if there were pauses between the fighting, but there could be definitely dialogue. Anyways, I guess we'll end this recording here. I suspect there are 2 more levels, and then that's just going to be it for the entire campaign mode. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.